GM just shocked the entire auto industry, and nobody saw it coming. The company's CEO has officially revealed a brand new pickup truck that's going to start at around $30,000, and this move has left the competition scrambling for answers. For years, pickup trucks have been climbing higher and higher in price, with entry-level models from Ford, Ram, and even GM themselves pushing well past $40,000 before you even add options. But this announcement flips the script entirely. GM is saying to truck buyers, you don't need to be rich to own a brand new pickup anymore. And that's the kind of shakeup that could completely change the US truck market. Now let's get into why this is such a big deal. GM has always been one of the top dogs in the pickup world, competing directly with Ford's F-Series and Ram's 1500 lineup. But in recent years, they've been losing ground because of pricing, tech features, and the fact that competitors have been aggressively pushing into hybrid and EV pickups. By dropping a $30,000 truck into the mix, GM is making a direct play for working-class buyers, small business owners, and younger drivers who've been priced out of the truck market. Think about it, $30,000 for a new truck when the average transaction price of a vehicle in the US is hovering near $50,000? That's an instant headline grabber. And it's not just about the price. GM has hinted that this truck isn't some stripped-down, bare-bones model either. They're aiming to balance affordability with practicality, meaning decent towing, payload capacity, and modern safety features all included in that price tag. That's where the real surprise comes in, because usually when an automaker announces a budget pickup, it's code for no power, no tech, and a lot of compromises. But GM is playing this smart. They want this truck to feel like a real competitor to Ford's Maverick and Toyota's Tacoma, while still undercutting them with aggressive pricing. This also raises huge questions for Ford, Ram, and Toyota. Ford has been dominating headlines with its Maverick hybrids, but availability is so limited that dealers are marking them up thousands above sticker. Ram doesn't even have a small affordable truck right now, and Toyota's Tacoma, while wildly popular, just had a redesign that made it even more expensive. So GM dropping this $30,000 truck is like throwing a grenade into the middle of the segment. It forces everyone else to rethink their pricing strategies, and in today's economy, that's exactly the kind of disruption buyers have been waiting for. And here's where things start to get even more interesting, because GM isn't just going after the wallet, they're going after the entire mindset of truck ownership. For years, automakers have been conditioning buyers to accept that trucks are luxury items, packed with leather, giant touchscreens, and six-figure price tags. But GM is rolling this back to the basics in the best way possible. They're reminding everyone that a pickup truck should first and foremost be a workhorse, something reliable, capable, and affordable enough to actually put to work. That shift in philosophy is going to resonate with contractors, landscapers, farmers, and even city dwellers who need a utility vehicle without the luxury car pricing. What GM is really doing here is filling a gap that has been widening for years. You see, Ford's Maverick made headlines for being affordable, but the reality is you can hardly find one at MSRP, and many buyers end up paying close to $35,000 to $40,000 after markups and trims. Toyota's Tacoma, while legendary for its durability, is now climbing into the mid-30Ks even at the entry level. Ram's lineup is powerful, but if you're not spending $45,000 or more, you're basically out of the conversation. That left a massive hole in the market, an opening that GM is now driving straight into with this new $30,000 pickup. And let's not forget, GM has a history of knowing how to build trucks that last. Chevy Silverados and GMC Sierras have long been staples in the American workforce, and while they're known for their size and strength, this new move shows GM understands the new generation of truck buyers. People don't just want something huge and intimidating, they want something practical that fits both their budget and their lifestyle. This $30,000 truck is proof that GM is paying attention, and it could very well set the standard for what other automakers will have to follow. But here's the kicker, GM isn't stopping at just affordability. From what insiders are saying, this truck will also bring in key modern features like advanced safety tech, a solid infotainment system, and even hybrid or electrified options down the line. That means GM isn't just looking at the present, they're also laying the groundwork for the future. They're telling buyers, you can get a truck that's affordable today, but also ready for tomorrow. And in a market that's quickly shifting toward electrification, that's a critical step forward. Now let's dive into what people are really curious about, the design and performance of this truck. GM isn't building some cheap-looking box on wheels. From early leaks and insider reports, this pickup has the bold stance and rugged proportions that GM trucks are known for, but in a more compact and approachable form. Think muscular wheel arches, a wide front grille that still carries that Chevy and GMC DNA, and a bed that's actually useful, not just for show. It's the kind of truck that looks tough enough to be taken seriously, but not oversized to the point of being impractical for everyday driving. Under the hood, GM is reportedly giving buyers multiple options, which is another clever move. Base models will likely carry a smaller displacement engine, probably a turbocharged 4-cylinder, for efficiency and affordability. But higher trims may offer a V6 option, giving buyers the towing and hauling power they expect from a truck. And the whispers don't stop there. GM has hinted at electrified versions, maybe a hybrid at launch and potentially a fully electric version down the line. That's where this gets really strategic, because it means GM can attract both traditional gas-loving truck owners and forward-looking EV buyers with the same platform. Now compare this with Ford's Maverick, which basically forced buyers into the hybrid setup as the default option. GM is taking a different route, offering choice. They know not every truck buyer is ready to jump straight into electrification, but at the same time, they also can't ignore the EV future. By keeping their options open, they're widening the appeal of this truck to as many people as possible, from contractors who want simple gas power to eco-conscious drivers who want lower emissions. And the competition has to be sweating right now. Ford's Maverick works, but supply is a nightmare. Toyota's Tacoma is still great, but it's expensive and not really an entry-level truck anymore. Ram doesn't even have a true player in this smaller affordable truck segment. So when GM steps in with a stylish, capable, modern pickup at $30,000, it's basically putting every competitor on notice. It's saying, we're not just here to play catch-up, we're here to reset the rules. And here's the part that most people aren't even thinking about. This truck isn't just going to shake up the US market, it has the potential to disrupt pickup sales globally. In regions like South America, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East, affordable, reliable pickups are the backbone of transportation and small businesses. Toyota's Hilux, Ford's Ranger, and Nissan's Navara dominate those markets because they're tough, practical, and priced for working people. If GM brings this $30,000 pickup to those regions, it could undercut the competition and win over buyers who have been loyal to other brands for decades. That's a massive opportunity, and GM knows it. Think about Brazil, where compact pickups like the Fiat Strata or VW Severo are kings of the road. Or places like Thailand, where Toyota Hilux is basically a national vehicle. If GM positions this truck right, strong enough for real work but cheap enough to buy without going broke, they could take market share away from the entrenched leaders. And with GM already having global production and distribution networks, they're perfectly placed to scale this truck beyond just North America. This isn't just a US play, it's a worldwide strategy. But let's bring it back to the American buyer for a second, because this is where the real pressure is building. Right now, truck prices have alienated huge groups of people. Young buyers, first-time buyers, even small business owners who used to depend on pickups are being priced out. GM is saying, no more. They're reeling those people back in with a truck that actually makes sense financially. And let's be honest, when a family has to choose between a used 10-year-old pickup with 120,000 miles or a brand new GM truck for $30,000, the decision gets a lot easier. This move could also shake up leasing and financing. A lower MSRP means lower monthly payments, and that's exactly what the market needs right now when interest rates are high and buyers are being more cautious. GM is setting themselves up to capture buyers who otherwise might have walked away from the truck market altogether. And once those buyers are in, GM can upsell them later into higher trims, accessories, and even EV versions down the line. It's a long-term loyalty play wrapped inside a short-term price bombshell. Dealerships are already buzzing over this truck, because let's face it, this is exactly the kind of product that gets buyers flooding into showrooms. Dealers have been struggling with moving high-priced inventory, and a $30,000 pickup is like a golden ticket. They know buyers are tired of six-figure trucks with features they don't really need. A simple, affordable, but still modern GM pickup means quicker turnover, fewer unsold units sitting on the lot, and way more foot traffic. For dealers, this is a game changer, because once they get you in the door for the $30,000 truck, they can show you trims, packages, and upgrades that increase their margins. And mechanics. They're quietly cheering this too. One of the biggest complaints about modern trucks is overcomplication. Too much tech, too many sensors, too many electronics that drive up repair costs. But this new GM truck is expected to lean more on simplicity, which means lower maintenance bills for owners and more manageable repairs for shops. That's good news for independent mechanics who don't want to deal with overly complex systems, and it's good for owners who don't want to be tied to expensive dealership service departments. GM is essentially putting trucks back into the hands of the everyday mechanic, and that builds trust. The aftermarket industry is also about to feast on this. Affordable trucks have always been a blank canvas for customization. Lift kits, wheels, off-road accessories, bed covers, you name it. When trucks are too expensive, people hesitate to spend thousands more personalizing them. But when your starting point is $30,000, suddenly the aftermarket becomes much more attractive. Expect this new GM truck to become a favorite among off-road enthusiasts, small business owners who need utility add-ons, and younger drivers who want to make the truck their own. It's not just a product launch, it's the start of an ecosystem. But the bigger ripple effect is how this is going to pressure other automakers to respond. Ford can't sit back and watch GM eat into their Maverick and Ranger sales. Ram can't afford to ignore the compact, affordable truck segment forever. And Toyota, while still king with the Tacoma globally, now has to figure out how to justify charging thousands more for a truck when GM is offering similar capability at a much lower entry price. This is the start of a pricing war, and for the first time in years, the buyer is the one holding the advantage. Wall Street is already watching this move with a sharp eye, because GM isn't just launching another pickup, they're flipping the profit playbook on its head. Traditionally, automakers have relied on loading trucks with luxury features to rake in massive margins. Investors loved it, because those $70,000 to $100,000 trucks kept profits fat even if sales volume dipped. But GM's decision to push a $30,000 truck signals a shift back to volume strategy, selling more units at lower margins but capturing a wider market. Some analysts see this as risky, but others believe it's exactly what GM needs to regain dominance in a market that's been fragmenting. If this truck takes off, it could boost GM's market share dramatically, even if each unit doesn't make the same profit as a luxury Silverado. Then there's the union angle. A $30,000 truck likely means streamlined manufacturing, maybe even new plants or retooled facilities. That means jobs. And with GM's history of labor disputes and negotiations with the UAW, this truck could actually become a bargaining chip. Imagine GM saying, "We're building America's most affordable new truck, let's make sure it's also built by American workers." That's the kind of messaging that plays well in Washington and could soften union tensions while boosting GM's image as a job creator, not just a profit machine. From an investor's perspective, this also ties into GM's EV transition strategy. Let's be real, EV trucks like the Silverado EV and Hummer EV are expensive and limited in volume. They appeal to a small slice of buyers but don't move the needle for the broader market. By launching a $30,000 pickup, GM balances the scales. They can still push EV innovation at the top end while keeping volume sales strong at the entry level. That gives them breathing room financially while they figure out how to scale EVs profitably. Wall Street loves balance, and this truck provides exactly that. And don't underestimate the PR impact. For years, GM has been criticized for losing touch with working-class buyers, leaning too heavily into expensive trims, and chasing Tesla-style hype. This truck is a clear rebuttal. It's GM saying, "We remember who built our brand, and we're building this truck for you." That kind of messaging not only sells vehicles but restores brand loyalty. And in a market where Ford has been stealing attention with the Maverick and F-150 Lightning, GM finally has its headline grabber. Everyday buyers are going to be the real story here, because this truck speaks directly to people who've been priced out of the market for far too long. For rural workers, farmers, and small-town contractors, this isn't just another shiny announcement, it's hope. For years, they've watched trucks climb into luxury territory, with sticker prices rivaling houses in some areas. GM coming out with a $30,000 pickup instantly changes that conversation. Suddenly, a farmer who needs a dependable workhorse, or a contractor who needs a reliable job site truck, doesn't have to gamble on a high-mileage used model anymore. They can actually drive off the lot with something brand new, backed by warranty, at a price that makes sense. But it's not just the rural market. City drivers are going to pay attention to this too. With more people living in urban and suburban areas, the giant, oversized full-size trucks don't always make sense. Parking them is a nightmare, fuel costs are painful, and many people don't even need that much capability. A smaller, $30,000 GM truck hits the sweet spot, It's practical, easy to live with, and versatile enough for weekend getaways or small business deliveries. It becomes less about owning a big truck and more about owning a vehicle that actually fits modern life. That's a cultural shift, because it redefines the truck as something accessible, not intimidating. And then there's the younger generation. Millennials and Gen Z have largely stayed out of the new truck market because of sky-high prices. They've been turning to compact SUVs, crossovers, and even used cars instead. But give them a stylish brand-new pickup for $30,000, and suddenly you're talking about a whole new wave of younger truck buyers. These buyers will customize, they'll show it off on social media, and they'll make it trendy again. GM knows this, and they're counting on it. This truck isn't just a vehicle, it's bait to bring the next generation into the GM ecosystem early. On top of all that, there's the pride factor. Trucks in America aren't just tools, they're part of the culture. But when the average buyer can't afford one anymore, that cultural identity starts to fade. GM is reigniting that flame by putting a truck back within reach of the average household. It's not about whether you need a truck, it's about being able to have one without financial stress. That's going to hit emotionally for a lot of people, and it could reshape how trucks are perceived, not as luxury toys, but as something every hard-working American can once again aspire to own. If there's one guaranteed ripple effect from GM's $30,000 pickup, it's that the competition can't sit quietly. Ford has been riding high on the Maverick's success, but let's be honest, demand has so far outstripped supply that buyers are frustrated. With GM stepping in at nearly the same price point but promising wider availability, Ford is under pressure to ramp up production or risk losing customers to Chevy and GMC overnight. And when Ford feels pressure, they respond quickly. So don't be surprised if we see them either lowering prices on the Maverick or rushing out special trims of the Ranger to stay competitive. Toyota is another giant that has to be paying attention. The Tacoma is legendary, but it's not cheap anymore, especially after the redesign. Toyota's reputation for reliability is unmatched, but now they're going to have to justify why buyers should spend several thousand more for a base Tacoma when GM is dangling a truck that offers capability and modern features for $30,000 flat. If Toyota doesn't react with aggressive pricing or incentives, GM could chip away at one of Toyota's strongest strongholds. And Ram? Well, Ram has been caught flat-footed. They've been all in on big, expensive trucks and haven't offered anything in the affordable compact or mid-size space. That strategy worked when buyers were flush with cash and interest rates were low, but in today's market, it's looking more like a liability. GM just forced Ram's hand. Either Ram finally jumps into the affordable truck segment or risks becoming irrelevant to a massive group of buyers who simply can't afford $50,000 trucks anymore. This is how a price war starts, and for once, it's not bad news for the buyer. In fact, it's the best thing that could happen. When one automaker throws down the gauntlet with aggressive pricing, the others have to follow if they want to stay competitive. That means discounts, incentives, and rebates could start flooding the market. Truck buyers who have been sitting on the sidelines, waiting for prices to cool down, may finally see the breakthrough they've been hoping for. GM's move isn't just a truck launch, it's the opening shot in a battle that could bring affordability back to the entire segment. And here's where things really start to get messy, because this $30,000 gas-powered pickup doesn't just shake up the traditional market, it also collides head-on with the EV truck race. Ford has poured billions into the F-150 Lightning, Tesla is banking on the Cybertruck hype, and Rivian has carved out a niche with adventurous buyers. GM themselves has been pushing the Silverado EV and the hulking Hummer EV.